Don't open my door to the outside world.
Like, dude, I hope that Jill Stein worked with the Russians, because I need to hear or see whatever those email exchanges were. It's like the best. You imagine her like on the phone, like I used to be a respected activist and doctor, but you want me to walk across the entire country making a complete fucking idiot out of myself in order to help this real estate rapist buffoon be president. And you're talking about a contribution to the Green Party and $50,000 in my bank account? What the fuck are you talking about?
Yes, we'll need you to say Hillary's too big to jail. Can you say that?
Yeah, too big to jail. Okay, well, in order to intervene in the campaign with something as stupid and worthless as that, I'm going to need, I don't know, points on a Gazprom field. All of a sudden, when I look at your offer, Dimitri, I'm thinking to myself, maybe I should be running a 40-state educate the public, build the Green Party from the grassroots campaign, not be some type of dumb, weird millionaire housewife suicide bomber campaign. Do you see what I'm saying, Dimitri? Because when you tell me you're going to give me $100,000 personally to interfere with the election, I get offended. And when I get offended, I get less stupid. Do you see what I'm saying? I might have to answer Sam Cedar's question about a 50-state strategy rationally. Do you get what the hell I'm saying, Dimitri? I think that would be amazing. I actually think if that was Jill Stein, I'd have so much more respect for her. She's just like, I want points in Gazprom, gentlemen. I saw she's like, I talked to General Flynn for a minute and he wasn't interested in my proposal. But she really just showed him like, what? Let me see the invoice for the RT dinner. You got paid. What the fuck?
Jill, I want you to say we would still frack if Hillary is president.
Frack if I can get a point on Gazprom. Oh, man. Jill Stein, much like Russia itself, makes almost everyone who touches her dumber for it. Welcome to the Michael Brooks Show. I am Michael Brooks. We're broadcasting live. It's a special Friday episode, the last of 2017, our 21st episode. Broadcasting in Brooklyn, Left is Best headquarters with super producer Matt Leck.
Hello.
Hello. Head theoretician David Grishcom.
How's it going?
Oh, look at that. Trying to get all white, Barry White. Digital gorilla David Slavic, the other super producer. He is actually not with us today, but always with us in spirit. On today's program, Vanessa A Bee. She is a writer for Current Affairs. She's going to explain why we need to nationalize the internet, what the debate about net neutrality tells us about neoliberalism, the World Wide Web, and capitalism itself, plus crew Corey Pein. We're getting deep. We're getting personal. We're talking about the missing factor of class in American politics, how our own stories inform where we're coming from, and what grounds for hope are for the future of American politics and civilization. Plus, sorry to do it, but we're throwing a ginger in the pyramid today. A total, such an incredible waste of space that we're going to need to let him out again at some point, just so we can throw him back in.
He's going to be a new mascot.
That is true. And on the post-game, Dead Pundits, Adam Proctor is going to be here in studio with the fellas, breaking it all down. All that and much more. Plus, a little bit of Obama material we got up to sleep later. All that and more on this week's Michael Brooks Show. But first, let's start with a little bit more of what I hope to be a hopeful note to leave this year on. I'm sorry to laugh like that. Look, things are really bad. And we have a buffoonish, orange-faced, clown fascist president, game show, sexual assault guy. We have a Republican Party that is completely synchronized with him in the upward distribution of wealth and the complete robbery of whatever little remained, of whatever little we began with, of an American social system, safety net, and commons. We're really at, and for patrons, you're going to hear more of this on Sunday in the illicit history, but we really are at the Cuba cake cutting scene of Godfather 2, where Hyman Roth is on the rooftop basically explaining how the entirety of the island and different hotel and casino businesses are going to get distributed to a handful of mafia families. That was the tax bill. That's where we are in terms of our politics and in terms of our stage of neoliberalism. But look, there is no doubt that in order to defeat this, we need an actual left project. And that is definitely part of the core mission of this show, to build a project that is strategic, that is sustainable, that is viable, that has broad appeal because of its brand clarity, but also because of the rigor and coherence of its message and the range of people that it can synthesize and appeal to across the board and hitting every type of emancipation possible, social, political, economic, in a synthesized way. That's why examples like the Freedom Charter from the African National Congress mean so much to me. In order for that to happen, we need the dead delusional center to die away, and it is. There is no centrist answer to the extremism of the moment. The ball will just keep getting pulled further and further and further and further towards the total fanatics and kleptocrats that are running this country. And people know this. Most importantly, young people know this. We're not more left and better in our politics because people in their 20s or 30s that they're somehow sort of magically more ethical. This isn't socially explained. It's not a brand or marketing trend. It's because people who are coming into their adulthood now in the broadest possible segmentation have lived out this economic system to its fullest, including people who are very privileged and did all the things that you're supposed to, quote unquote, have done. People who went to college, people who grew up middle class, people who grew up with a lot of racial, economic, and identity comfort are facing stagnant wages, limited job opportunities, and seeing more and more stolen from them across the board. And out of that, you get poll numbers like more and more millennials rejecting capitalism, more and more millennials embracing socialism. These movements, the thread that did start, and none of them are perfect, but if you look thematically, Occupy Wall Street was so important because it was a mass of people. And I remember coming out of college, struggling, doing things for a couple of years, trying to figure it out, and realizing that what Occupy was this mass moment where a lot of people got together and said to themselves, this isn't some Tony Robbins video. This isn't my fault. This is a structure. You don't have unemployment because your resume isn't good. In fact, your resume is too good. Nobody should have as good a resume as most people leaving college today. That's why people are so fucking boring, which is a downside of younger people today. But that being said, there is a rampant structural problem. Occupy solidified and identified that. Black Lives Matter took the Jim Crow, the new Jim Crow, Michelle Alexander's, what she put together so brilliantly, brought that on the street, and we're so relentless and clear about it that, yes, we're in a situation today where there's real people and real coalitions who want to seriously do something about it. The center folded with its kind of fake, and people still try to do this all the time, false equivalencies on those issues, and a revanche of it, and a kind of resurrected white supremacist politics of Trump and Sessions that actually wants to reaffirm and broaden police brutality and abuse, not just of race, but also of class and sentencing and punitive approaches in general, which we all have to fight. And then Bernie Sanders started to bring those themes together imperfectly, but in a way that is completely unprecedented since at least the 1980s, and some of the things that Jesse Jackson did, and in many ways not since really the best parts of the New Deal and the Great Society, except fused with at least some decent moves on foreign policy. So people get it. We're in the conflict zone now where we're fighting raw power. And that's very scary. It's very threatening. It's very visceral. What people went through when they got arrested at G20 and the prosecution's attempts to destroy free speech and criminalize protests, we're going to see more and more and more of that. And by the way, that goes back to the anti-globalization protests of the 1990s, where a sort of lost generation of people who are kind of on the ball at this stuff already in their 40s, to give them credit, they were out doing it. So it's scary, but at least we're losing the veneer. When Paul Ryan goes out and talks his nonsense about this creating jobs and then quickly pivots to the next racialized attack on the welfare state, which you are going to see, that is the next move. Give the giveaway, jack up the deficit, which you don't care about, and then come for Medicaid, come for food stamps. Ultimately go for Social Security and Medicare, but those are a little harder because they're universal programs. Oh, right, universal programs like Bernie Sanders talked about. They're pretty effective. We know where the conflict lines are. We don't have time for Thomas Friedman nonsense. We're not in delusion. It's about power. It's about distribution. And the stakes are clear and there are no sidelines. And the big advantage that people from our politics have is that it is, in fact, most of us. And we need to, through a combination of politics, through social sanctioning of the hyper-wealthy, through humiliation, embarrassment, ridicule, organizing and creating human bonds, both of those things, all of these movements at once, we need to synthesize, create, and move and know exactly where we are. And there's real grounds to be confident. We should be looking at all of the disgusting pieces of news every day and just think of like, all right, well, now all these people are about to learn the meaning of the term victims of your own success. And I have total confidence that we can do that. And that is, in fact, other than the fact that I enjoy being paid through Patreon to make fun of people, why I do this. So I want to thank everybody for every aspect of this show, from people who are patrons, obviously, to all the people who listen, watch, and share it. We've grown really fast. We've done really well. We have a broader circle of friends and comrades and associates who we're building this out with. And I'm confident about what we can put together. Thank all of you. And now, after shouting ourselves out, do we still have Birdman as the shout-out music? You don't have Birdman anymore. Would you like to karaoke Birdman, David?
Shout out, shout out.
Shout out, shout out. All right. So this is, that's good.
I'm just going to cut that from the future and we're just going to play that.
Dun-dun-dun-dun. Shout out, shout out. Have you guys still not looked into that he's dating Toni Braxton?
To be honest.
Do you know who she is?
I do, but it doesn't mean that much to me.
That's like, okay, so like Jay-Z's sort of like from the wrong side of the tracks, blah, 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 but he's very smart and he's very like, you know, he's a self-made mogul, and then he got like the perfect church girl daughter in Beyonce. But Toni Braxton is like the church girl daughter who is like, no, I want to date a guy who's a true degenerate.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's Birdman.
As someone who grew up
kind of
around,
just mind blowing.
I grew up around a lot of church girls. That's not so mind blowing.
Wow, nice. That's what I always say. So you've been with a girl who's like into Jesus, but not that into Jesus. You don't really know what a good time is. So resetting. Back to the shout out. Shout out, shout out, shout out. You need to do it with me again, Matt. We need to reset.
Shout out.
Shout out. Okay. This is an amazing project, actually, that Mike Consul wrote about in Vox, of all places. It's a DSA group in Washington, D.C. called the Stamp Out Slumlords campaign. Now, DSA nationally, which is the Democratic Socialists of America, of course, has skyrocketed from 7,000 to 30,000 members nationwide since Trump took office. And the campaign in D.C. specifically helps educate residents of low-income housing about their legal rights if they're facing eviction. And in most cases, people who are facing eviction actually, first of all, have many mechanisms to stay in a place longer than they realize. There's many ways of fighting back. They also need to know exactly like when their court dates are. Believe me, I went through this some of this stuff growing up. I know what this process is like. You need to know what the court dates are. So, because if you miss it, it's an automatic eviction, as an example. There's also a lot of ways to turn the fight on its head, because if you're a slumlord terrorizing your tenants, chances are you aren't taking care of things that you're legally obligated to take care of. So they're also helping people do audits of where they're at and also look for places where potentially they could be getting money from the slumlords themselves. This is an incredible action. I hope to see more like it. And it also, once again, belies the mythology about people with an actual left agenda not doing real things. I don't know what gets realer than keeping somebody in their home. So that is the Stamp Out Slumlords campaign, which is organized by the Washington D.C. branch of the DSA. Now, we're going to get to Vanessa A Bee in a moment. But first, we're going to do a little pitch. We have a couple of patrons in studio, actually. You guys are patrons, right? Yeah, okay. I hope you're right. It's not a joke. You can get the fuck out. No, we have our friends in the studio. We have patrons. We were up to, I think, about 9:27 or so, 9:28 as of this show starting. I want to thank each and every one of you so much. Please check at the end of the month when Patreon charges. There's usually a drop-off because of declined cards and other sort of things. So make sure, a lot of people that I've actually checked in with, they want to still be on, and so just make sure everything is up to date so there's more continuity for you. When we hit 1,000, we're going to get an impressionist. Excuse me. When we hit 1,000, we're going to get
We already got
animator.
one of those.
We do. We have one. We kind of have 1.5. You guys drop in there sometimes too. We certainly do. We're going to get an animator for the impressions. We are going to keep building out the trainings at the people at the 21 and above level. I have a call actually that we're going to announce soon that I'm going to do with you all this weekend. The Discord community is alive and active on its own. It's incredibly impressive. Thank you, Jameson. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, everybody else who makes that happen. We are building out this content because of the mission that I told you about right at the outset of the show. It's about building a new left agenda. It's about winning. It's about radically improving human life. And if we could play even a small role in that, then that will be meaningful and significant. And you helping us do it is essential, because this is the only way it's going to be done in the world we live in today. So thank each and every one of you so much. It's how we stay free of corporate oligarchs. It's how we take on anyone we want to take on, anytime, anywhere, any place. We are moving. We're moving. Thank you for moving with us. We will be right back with Vanessa A Bee from Current Affairs. This is the Michael Brooks Show. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Michael Brooks Show. Joining us now is Vanessa A Bee. She is a contributing writer at Current Affairs and an attorney in Washington, D.C. Vanessa, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So, Vanessa, you write many good pieces, but today we're talking about a public internet is possible. This is a piece you published on December 14th in Current Affairs. And you use the net neutrality debate, the net neutrality travesty, to actually open up a much broader conversation about the internet and about neoliberalism itself. Can you start by explaining a little bit about how you see net neutrality in and of itself, but also this kind of broader door it opens for you to think about the internet?
Yeah. So, I think I should start by disclosing that, sort of what inspired this piece. I really had started working on it sometime last year, just really being a disgruntled Comcast consumer and just being really frustrated, dealing with them, having, lived a huge chunk of my life in Europe and knowing that it can just be so much better than it is now. And I sort of, I did some research, and what I really wanted to do was write a piece about municipal broadband. There was what sort of triggered it, besides, my own personal experience with one of these internet service providers or ISP, was really last year, the FCC, while it was headed by Chairman Wheeler during the Obama administration, they intervene, in a case where, municipalities were trying to defend their sort of running their own ISPs. And it went all the way up to an appeals court, and the state in which the municipality, I think it was for Tennessee, in the Sixth Circuit, the state was trying to prevent municipalities from passing, the sort of regulations that would allow municipalities to run their own ISPs. And the FCC, in intervening, said, our own statute should preempt the states from doing what they're doing. And long story short, they lost in the Sixth Circuit, so that it's now basically legal for states to keep passing these laws to prevent us all from having, better internet, basically.
Can I just explain? And I want to make sure I have it right. And this is good. So essentially, what they were doing was I'll say I don't know the case, but I guess let's say it's Tennessee. So say Chattanooga, which I think Chattanooga does actually have a very big reputation for public internet and broadband and those types of things. So say Chattanooga wants to regulate or create a condition where, Comcast is not meeting the conditions that Chattanooga as a city or municipality has set for its own standards of service and providing. They want to implement their own standards. The state of Tennessee said, no, you can't do that. This is a state, not municipal issue. And the FCC supported Tennessee's position in undermining cities and municipalities demanding higher, better internet standards. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So it was actually Tennessee and North Carolina. And yes, the FCC supported these two states, which wanted to have their own broadband networks. And basically the communities were fighting, their own state. And the statutes that the FCC is working with are pretty outdated. And so you could tell, even in reading, the court's final decision, that they really wanted to find with the communities. They're sort of listing all the good reasons for having a public internet. But then ultimately we're sort of we don't have a way to read this statute that would allow the FCC to preempt the states, right, to prevent the states from overruling the communities. And so I saw that whole sort of legal drama unfold last summer, and I was, outraged. and I started writing the piece and just, I don't know, I guess I kind of lost motivation. But when the whole net neutrality picked up again this year, I thought, you know what, this is the perfect time to like really make the case for this municipal broadband network again. And so it just, that was sort of where the inspiration came from.
Yeah, and so you have this broader sort of critique of essentially, of a non-public internet. So take us into specifically, and I think this is another thing that made the piece very interesting to me. Net neutrality is incredibly important in and of itself, and we're going to have to move into the next battle now, obviously, of attempting to fight this in every way possible, and also seeing, potentially if there's a change in administration, if this can be reversed. But you're talking about, and let me try to frame it for you, and correct me if I'm wrong. Part of how I read your argument, and this will lead us into the sort of broader implications and the broader case for a public internet. Because it's relatively generally accepted from the center through, it's a mainstream Democratic Party position that net neutrality is a desirable policy. There's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of contradictions. There's tons of Comcast and Verizon money in Democratic coffers. The Obama administration waffled on it. But at the end of the day, they implemented decent standards in 2015. There was Hillary Clinton, there was zero indication that she would have reversed herself on this. So the question, though, then becomes, why, if you can understand the incredible importance of intervening in a public interest way in this specific area of the internet to block a certain area of obvious abuse and hustling by the ISPs, why does that not lead to broader lessons about how we should be governing and regulating and generating for the public in the largest information commons of our time and of any time? Is that kind of where you're going?
Yeah, I think that, it was like, I think the position that the FCC initially took was great, but generally I think we've seen this issue with both Democratic and Republican administrations. I think that Democrats have been guilty of sort of painting the government as inept, and they do it. They're doing it now, with the internet, but they obviously do it in other sectors too. They do it when it comes to public education. They do it when it comes to public or subsidized housing. They'll like starve a program and then turn around and tell you that, guess it's not working. It's not working so great. I guess we better outsource to other companies to do this work for us. And I think I agree with you that it's just really frustrating. And this is the second article that I write for Current Affairs that has public, in the title. So I guess this is becoming my thing now, where I'm just trying to basically push socialist-friendly programs onto people and to kind of try to reframe the conversation. But those aren't, like, it's not like we're talking about necessarily reinventing the wheel. And I think that as leftists, we should be better at, taking existing programs and, like, we need to be better at selling it to people. And we shouldn't be hiding the government's role in providing services to people. And in fact, I think that when you do hide the government's role, it makes it easier to repeal good things.
Explain that more. I think that's a really good point. Will you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think that maybe the fact that it wasn't on the forefront of people's minds that, like, net neutrality is, like, it's a principle that's existed since, since the beginning of the internet, but then we also had these rules in place to make it happen, but that wasn't at the forefront of people's minds. So then when you repeal those rules, like, sure, people got outraged, but maybe we got outraged a little too late, because we didn't quite realize just what the role of government was this entire time. And, you could expand that argument to, like, Social Security and other quote-unquote entitlements, I think as much as they can, like, Democrats I think they're equally guilty, of sort of trying to reframe public programs as sort of quasi-private, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense.
I'm very wary of it.
Well, yeah, I mean that's because it's also like the performative contradiction. I always use the example, like if you look at a website for, say, a Republican strategy or a communications firm and a Democratic one, the thing you'd notice, and this has changed a bit recently because I think even inside that world there's a little bit more coherence, but generally if you look at a Republican one, it's like, I'm working for candidates that want to destroy and rip apart the earth and take all of your money, and I'm also in off seasons I work for Walmart or Exxon. Democrats are like, okay, I work for a range of Democratic candidates, some of which actually might be really good, some of which are totally terrible, others are just, complete mediocrities, like most Democrats. Then I have like a foundation section where I work on, green issues, and I work for some kind of like friendly foundations or something that don't really do, they don't do structural radical work, but they do some nice work. And then here's my corporate list, and I'm actually working with the Republican on a Walmart account. And I think that there's
reaching across the aisle.
Right. They're very good about that. And there's a lot of money to be made by reaching across the aisle. So I think what you're pointing to is not only have Democrats also helped devastate government through this rhetoric, they then have a performative contradiction and a hard sales job because Republicans, government's horrible. We should run the country like Tyson Foods. That would be great. Okay. Sure. But at least it's a coherent message versus, well, government's terrible and businesses are the best. But the thing is, you need a little bit to tweak the business, and government can be nice if it's like a business. It's a whole verbiage mess.
Right.
What was it in your experience? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I would love you to elaborate on all of it, but what is it in your experience, both whether it's, you talked about being in Europe, or is it, academic, personally, like how did you not buy into the government as problem mythology?
I really think for me it stems from having grown up in Europe. And so all of these ideas that seem a little bit pie in the sky for American consumers are just such a given, in various places in the EU. So for background, I grew up between France and England until about, high school. And I was working class / at times poor. And so my mother and I definitely, benefited from government assistance. So, like I had braces at the age of 12, and I think my mom maybe paid £10 a month, right? Which sounds ridiculous when you realize like how expensive braces are in the United States.
Right.
And I really just grew up in an environment where it was, it was okay to receive government assistance. There are just more universal programs in France, for instance. I know that I think there's a child allowance, and there may be a sliding scale for it, but a huge amount of the population just receives, straight up cash for having children at the beginning of the school year, and you can use it, and, it can go towards school supplies, things like that. And it's not to say that, like, poor people don't get vilified even in the EU, but it just was more normalized. And so I moved to this country and was sort of confused by all the anti-government rhetoric, especially in light of the amount of poverty that there is in this country. I've always felt like, you can't have it both ways. You don't want to create jobs. You don't want to sort of there's just not a very strong social, there's not a strong, like, social safety net here, but at the same time, to see people turn around and sort of crap on government, I just could never make sense of it. And I think even when I went through a conservative phase, which is so embarrassing to admit on air, but I should just own it.
That is, I'm amazed by your courage. I'm definitely going to make fun of you for it on the next time you're on, but not your first appearance. I'll let it slide, but I definitely will remember this.
I'm trying to make up for it now by spreading the good word of socialism everywhere.
Yeah, you're doing good. You're doing good.
Even as a conservative, I had a hard time, vilifying government. It just never made sense to me.
So, and it's funny because even as you say that, even this shambolic, inbred, grotesque austerity Tory regime propped up by like the Irish equivalent of the Klan, they just announced that they're going to have a universal broadband, so that shows again just the incredible extremism of this radical American anti-government, anti-sanity position. As we kind of move towards closing, what does it look like when Bernie's elected president in 2020, you and I and a couple of other people from my show and Current Affairs have, various cabinet positions, been elected to Congress. Ajit Pai has been safely deposited in the gulag that he'll spend the next couple of years in. Or who am I kidding?
Nice.
Like eternity. Yeah, I'm pretending. There's no way he can be reformed. I actually do say totally seriously, like I don't want anybody to be homeless, but as long as we do have homelessness, it's got to be Ajit Pai. But anyways, that being said, what does it look like? What's this beautiful, open, nationalized commons internet look like when we take control?
So I'll start by saying that, this is not my specialty, right? I do consumer-related protection work with financial services. But I guess, in my mind, the utopia, it would have to be a national program. I think we would need to have a national policy, which, a few EU nations and, South Korea, Japan definitely have. Because we're, a federal republic, I think going about it the piecemeal way, it's kind of fine for now. I appreciate the municipalities that are making efforts to bring faster, cheaper internet to everyone in their towns, including, people who may be in rural areas and lower income people. But ultimately, I think we have to have a national policy. We have to make it a priority. We have to dedicate funding towards that effort. And we can't just be relying on the private sector. That's not reliable. Something that is, that I personally find interesting is that the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development signed agreements last year, I believe it was, with large tech companies, including Google and I think a few others, where they convinced these companies to help provide infrastructure and basically internet service at like reduced rates in public housing, right? Knowing just how essential the internet is. So HUD was under Julian Castro was committed basically to close what they called the digital divide. But I think there's something disturbing about having to basically rely on the goodwill of the private sector. And I think it's great that, like, Google, is playing along. But ideally, like, we have a treasury that literally prints money, right? So why can't we just pay for this? Why is this controversial to propose? And I also think that part of having a national strategy means that you can get real commitments that won't be reversed with every changing administration. Another piece that got a little bit of attention this year, but not as much, it's that the Federal Communications Commission, so the FCC, had a program that was called Lifeline that was dedicated towards, bringing internet to lower income households. And that's another thing that we can thank this current administration, for it being repealed.
Right.
And again, like if we could just really commit the funding to it on a national level, then poor people wouldn't be thrown under the bus every time a Republican administration rolls in. And, I've seen a few articles since I published mine and a few sort of rally cries on Twitter talking about we should nationalize the internet. And I think it's a good slogan. But in reality, it's really difficult to nationalize things, right? For better or worse, we live in a very sort of legalistic regime. And short of having the conditions for, a pitchfork revolution, we don't really have the kind of crisis that would lead the government to give itself the authority to nationalize places like Comcast and Verizon. We know that when the government wants to nationalize entities, it will. We saw it during the financial crisis, I guess, when we just sort of took over Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, but
Right.
That's pretty rare. So we have to be open-minded to I think as leftists, we have to also commit to coming up with good plans. We shouldn't leave the wonkiness to just the liberals,
I agree.
We should be able
Right.
to provide, accessible sort of strategies to bring this forth. So.
Well, you do
That's
that.
my
Really,
spiel.
you do that really well. You do it really well. Vanessa A Bee. She is a contributing writer at Current Affairs. She's an attorney in Washington D.C. A future guest of the Michael Brooks Show, where I will give her an incredibly hard time about being a former conservative. That's an interesting, a black woman who grew up in Europe, conservative. Did you ever go to Republican meetings?
Oh my God!
You actually, they probably
Yeah,
would. If you didn't have integrity, you could probably be in the Senate now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's so horrible. I'm sure they'd love to have.
Maybe a smart black woman from Europe who wants to destroy poor people. Yes. Check.
Yeah, I'm so glad I got out of the game when I did.
Yeah, we miss having you. We miss having you. It could have been you and you could have been sitting next to Ben Carson when he led the prayer to thank for the tax cut.
That's right. Just me and sleepy Ben.
You and sleepy
having a great
Ben.
time.
What was up with Ben Carson? This is far afield, but he said that the drug war disproportionately affects communities of color. What the hell happened to him?
I was so surprised.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like something
Did someone send him a Slate article? I'm so confused. Also, someone should tell him about Jeff Sessions. That's a great coming to. Tell your colleagues.
Wait, do you want to write a screenplay together where it could be like a remake of Regarding Henry starring Ben Carson, but instead of being like a dick, he's just asleep and he wakes up and is like, "Oh my God, I work next to a Southern segregationist. This is so wrong."
I'm in. Sign me up.
All right, that's our project. Vanessa A Bee, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, everybody, we'll do this after. We're going to take a brief break, and we're going to come back and do the pyramid, but we're going to do the pyramid with Britney Sneers from the Institute of Progressive Memetics. So let me just get her on the line, and we will be back. Are you ready, Matt? Do you have music ready to take? Okay, so we'll be right back in 30 seconds. Welcome back. Majority. Bad. Michael Brooks. Whatever. You know, sometimes superhero universes collide. It's fine. I think I remember that because I would like to play that the original on Majority Report a lot when I host. Joining us now for this very important part of the show. This is the last pyramid segment of 2018. Is Britney Sneers from the Institute of Progressive Memetics. They are our friends. They are the ones that make the pyramid segment come to life, if you're watching the visual version of this program. And they cause a lot of mischief on Twitter and torture a lot of annoying people. Brittany, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you? I'm glad the year's ending, to be honest with you.
Someone
it's been
tweeted
a shitty
out.
Year.
Sorry, what was it?
I said it's been a shitty year.
Someone tweeted out the other day that one of the only good things that happened in 2017 was the launch of TMBS.
Who tweeted that out?
I honestly, his name was like Colonel Akash or something. Like, you know, it's some guy who's like really funny and brilliant, and also like, you know, uses Twitter to allow himself to be insane. But that was one of his. He was totally lucid. It was a great point. You know, what was so crazy about that was like, obviously for me, like, of course, this has been great. I'm totally honored. I'm excited. Like that, it is. But I was thinking about it, I was like, even in like a public sphere sense, this year has been so bad that you actually could start getting down to the level of like, all right, well, you know, a couple more people in DSA and, you know, there's a good new show. Like things are really shitty.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, your show is great, so that's been positive. On the other hand, this year really has sucked a lot.
Right.
So, no. I know.
You know. Well, you guys have been doing good work.
Yeah, we try. We've had lots of memes. Lots of people have tried to get us banned.
Yes.
So
people are always trying to get you guys banned. I do not understand. Like, I am pretty much like, even if you're like writing and saying horrible things on Twitter, I don't like, the only people I ever think about getting banned are people like Cernovich, who specifically use the platform to like terrorize people. So like he should be banned from the platform. Cernovich, what did you say?
Such a hypocrite.
Such a hypocrite. But it's amazing. Like, on the other hand, like, I don't know. I mean, look, it's fine. But like, if somebody says something, if somebody says that I'm like an asshole or something, I just like, I don't know. If they do it a lot, I mute them. I never even give them the satisfaction of blocking them. Like, I truly, unless people, you hear some stories that are totally unacceptable that shouldn't happen, like people getting threatened, but everything else, it's like, you know, you guys get actual public figures to try to ban people with anonymous names who do Twitter jokes, like thrown off a platform.
Yeah, well, I think your thing is you kind of stay above the Twitter drama. That's definitely not our thing.
That is true. I do stay above the fray. It's true.
Yeah, we've definitely had some high-profile people throw us some shade. It's been crazy.
Who's the highest profile shade thrower?
For me personally, yeah. I don't know. Like, I think this last week I just got blocked by Patricia Arquette.
The actress?
Yeah, what a wild ride that was.
Wait, the chick in Pulp Fiction?
Yeah.
Wait.
That's Uma Thurman.
No, I know Uma Thurman. Patricia Arquette is hanging out with the pothead that Travolta buys heroin from. That's Patricia Arquette. Oh. And the great line is the dude's trying to set Travolta up. He's like, "Hey man, you want to come out and double date with us? You can go out with me." And you know, and he's trying to set him up with a girl. And Travolta's like, he's like, "Yeah, me and my wife's friend, you know, Patricia, or Anne." And John Travolta's like, "Is Anne the girl with the shit all over her face?" And he goes, "No, that's my wife, man." Which is one of my favorite
obviously,
scenes. Yeah, I love
her
that.
part wasn't big enough in that movie for me to remember.
Right. But those are two. See, Pulp Fiction is good because you have that Patricia Arquette scene, and then Brad, before he gets shot by Samuel L. Jackson, and he's going, he sounds like Marco Rubio in a debate. And it's like, say what again, Marco? What did you do to get her to ban you?
So you stay above the Twitter fray, but there are a few notorious like center people that are just like bad fucking people. One of them, he goes by Mr. Weeks, and he tweeted out this. Well, lucky you.
Okay.
He tweeted out this picture from a sign that someone posted at Temple University. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
It said some very bad things, including the N-word.
Okay.
And then at the bottom it said Bernie would have won. So, I mean, it screams like someone from the alt-right did that, but whatever.
Right, of course.
What have you.
Right.
So Patricia Arquette retweeted it, right? And she's like saying all this shit about Bernie supporters. And then she said she believed it because she's known some high-profile Bernie supporters that have said similar things to that, right?
Have you ever met Tim Robbins? That guy will not stop using the N-word. It's amazing. That was a joke, everybody. Joke.
Anyway, so the point is,
so that's
is that
insane.
Everybody was
Right.
like, tell us who you're talking about so that we can deal with it, because we like to hold people accountable on the left.
Yeah.
And she just flat out fucking refused to name names. We went back and forth, me and Patty, for a while. And then she eventually blocked me.
Well done. I don't know. I remember the last time I ever got into any, like, I just don't. Sometimes if I need to, I'll drop a bomb on somebody, but then I'm done. So, like, I had a back and forth with John Podhoretz. I upset him because he said this thing like, you're going to keep comparing Republican policies to the Holocaust. That's what Democrats do or something. And I was like, John, like, you're a smart dude. Like, if your benchmark is not as bad as the Holocaust, you guys could totally clear that threshold. And he, like, quote tweeted me and was like, you're the problem. And I just had this great exchange with him, but I didn't take it seriously. And then there was someone else, and this was much more marginal. Like, someone just sent this to me, and I think I was just, it must have been like, Hillary must have said something that day that even annoyed me enough to actually want to, like, do this. And it was like some account where it was like this person was basically, she was advocating like a woman's only political party, but it was like, you know, like a woman's only political party for like drones and like, you know, Goldman Sachs options. Like it was like the worst of all. It was like it was like a parody comedy version of identity politics with.
Wait,
like,
who are you talking about? I know people on Twitter who are doing this.
Oh my God.
Mia Brett.
I honestly don't remember her name. I don't.
It's a Queen Mab.
It could have been her. It might have been her. And I quote tweeted her, and I just said, like, is this a joke? And I actually was legitimately, like, 30% of me was trying to be like, oh, right, you're fucking around, right? And she gave me, like, you know that there's like this particular type of like pseudo like woke centrist Twitter that it's got a lot of verbiage, and it's a lot of like, I have receipts and like, it's very like, they come at you and it has like this very specific language, and she just started hitting me.
Don't knock the receipts. Receipts are important on Twitter, Michael.
Okay. Well, you educate me. I don't. Yeah, but it's just a certain like, it's certain like, how dare, like, first of all, I understand like some of these things. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to. She just went all guns blazing, and my only response after like literally like a chain of like 8 or 10 tweets accusing me of everything imaginable and blah blah, and I just wrote, because her first one, she said, no, it's not a joke. That was like her first, like she did, to her credit, answer my question before she went off the rails. And I just wrote, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And I was done. Like, you answered my question. Like, okay, bye. But then she left me alone. There was, it's like water. It's like the Dow. There's nothing to cling to.
Listen, people are wanting me to tell you that it was actually Rosanna Arquette in Pulp Fiction and not Patricia Arquette.
What's the difference?
They're different people.
I watched the movie when I was 11 years old. Who cares? I just thought it was funny that he dissed the guy's wife.
I know for sure Patty had her own show. It was called Medium. I never watched it, but she did have her own show.
Are they sisters?
I believe they're sisters, and I think they're sisters of David Arquette, who I want to say was married to Courtney Cox. There's some pop culture for you today.
Well, I dig it. Now, Brittany, we don't like these people. We don't like the Dum Dum Center. I don't particularly like Jill Stein, as I realized when I was listening to that cold open, which was slightly more harsh than I thought it was when we recorded it. But still, whatever. Screw Jill Stein. But there is still, and I think it's really important for us to remember this heading forward, we have our frenemies. We have people who are like idiots and need to be corrected. We have people that could be fought in many different conditions. But we really do have to remember like the ultimate enemy out there. And the ultimate enemy really are truly people like the Koch brothers.
Particularly their son.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, like these are the people. And the Koch brothers, who are absolutely some of the most ghoulish, evil, disgusting, just obscene in every way, shape, and form people on the planet. You would think that because like their father was evil and they're evil and they made billions and polluting the environment and they've dedicated their entire adult lives to try to increase poverty and human suffering and steal and take and take. You would think that they would produce like a totally useless son, but you might think, and this is to their credit, that the son might be like a little bit more gangster. Like comparing Wyatt Koch to Fredo Corleone, and I know it's like I'm going obvious here, but it's an insult to Fredo. Wyatt would never have the balls to try to set up a hit on his brother because he was jealous. He would be in Palm Beach doing this. Play the Instagram video of the Koch. Oh, I literally thought that was how the video opened. This is where, if you are a working class, middle class, or poor person, this is what you are going to go hungry or double your work effort to give this fucking kid money. Watch this.
My father said to me, Wyatt, you can do whatever you want to in life, but just make sure you do it well and you do it with passion. Every day I go to the office, I enjoy creating the clothes. Yes. Be bold means to me, be authentic, be real, be yourself.
There's also only like 12 patterns.
There's literally 12 patterns that he's
still
drawing.
Have that tenacity that no one can
You see, wait, pause it.
You.
Right now, Brittany, I don't know if you're out watching this. The shirt he has on now, in addition to, of course, being tremendously ugly. And if you're listening to this, this is like a lifestyle video for this kid's horrifically ugly clothing brand. Now he's wearing literally a patterned shirt of money bags with dollars on it that is monogrammed. It's like puke colored. He looks like an overgrown child, and I love my ginger brothers and sisters out there, but god damn, this is bad for the branding.
The team down.
He is really letting the team down.
I feel like I need everybody to understand who's never been to Palm Beach, Florida, that this dude is like quintessential Palm Beach. It's sad.
Well, and the place needs to be
moved. But he's like worse. He's like Palm Beach inbred, and he looks like a thumb.
Does he not look
thumb.
inbred? Like someone, like in addition to the fact that we need to tax the Koch brothers at like 100% rate, we need to like kidnap their spawn and like set them up in as many cross-racial, cross-religion relationships as possible just to clean out this gene pool. Like whatever created this kid, this is unhealthy. Okay? Like people talk about purity. Racial purity means your genetics are fucked up. You start to look like this. It's terrifying.
A thumb. He looks like a thumb.
Yes.
It reminds me that I have to announce I'm starting a new podcast next year called The New Habsburgs.
All right, keep it going. He's still explaining the dream and the vision behind this business. Now he's gesturing.
To be able to be worn in the boardroom or in a discoteca or a nightclub or on the yacht.
On the yacht.
I really wanted to create something that's fun, outside the box, cool, trendy, yet really bold and interesting.
All right. So if you ever
Wait,
need...
no.
Yeah,
I
go
feel
ahead.
like I need to say something
Yeah,
else.
please.
Since I've lived in this area of the world before. Also, there's no way this dude has real friends. Those people on the yacht are not his real friends.
No, they're all hired.
That, he pays to hang out with him.
Oh, no, I think they literally put in a call for a casting agency, and that's what it is. Like, those are obviously, and you can see it by the way they're, like, physically moving their bodies away from him while they're shooting the ad together, while he does his weird hand gestures. The thing that I want to know is and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like you're kind of like our Koch brothersologist. There's a gay son somewhere that got disowned, right?
Is it not him?
Well, no. I mean among the dads. There's
the dads, right?
Yeah, there's one that he mainly confines himself to philanthropy, but he took a smaller share from their father, the original Daddy Koch,
right?
Because he was gay and
goddamn faggot can't get my money.
There's talk in
that's what Daddy Koch said
in Sons of Wichita. I can't remember who wrote that now, but there's talk that he was basically written out of the will slightly, or there was issues over that because he was gay.
Right. So what I'm wondering though is where did the Koch brothers where did their toughness go? They're indulging. Well,
isn't this guy suing a former fiance for a wedding ring? So
yes,
I don't know how that. I don't know how that ended or what maybe complications they ran into.
She said, "No, I will not wear any more of these clothes." No, I think what happened is he found a gold digger. And they do exist. I know it's not woke language, but they exist, and they're male gold diggers too. By the way, he found a gold digger, and it was a gold digger with limits. And after 2 months of dealing with this guy, she reached her limit. She found her limits.
I think this one we have up right now, the Date Night Duds caption from Wyatt.Ingram on Instagram. Yeah, this is a bit maybe posed. I don't know.
Yeah, I really do not think. And just look at her smile.
Well, are those handcuffs?
Those are all of his shirt have either monograms of money bags or pink handcuffs.
Yeah, the Koch brothers are pro criminal justice reform, you guys.
Yeah, I wonder why. I'm going to be terrified.
You know what he reminds me of? Have you seen Wall-E?
Yeah, I have.
He reminds me of the people in Wall-E.
That's totally... He is... So Wyatt is actually really useful because he's basically he should just be this should just be the Democrats' State of the Union response. They should just be you know what, we figure that basically nobody here... We won't let Bernie speak, and since pretty much nobody else in our caucus is articulate, what we're going to do is we're just going to play the Koch brothers kids Instagram video to explain the Republicans' tax cuts. That's all they should do. All right. So
we have a call though. I wanted to say,
yeah,
we need to make Wyatt Ingraham Koch the new crying Jordan of plutocrats.
Yes.
So if anybody who if you see a scene maybe say all the Republicans signing a tax bill or doing this or that, put Wyatt Koch's face on every single one of them and tweet it out, and I'll definitely retweet it.
Hey guys, I have a quick question here. Operationally, why does the guy in the chair not get a beer? What the fuck is going on? I'm talking about me. Me. Where's my beer? Do I get a beer?
You could have just said, "Can I have a beer?" I don't know.
Yeah. Can I have a beer? Well, it hurts. It's everybody else just got these great beers, and I'm working my heart out, making fun of how inbred Wyatt looks, and I'm thirsty. So yes, we're gonna do that. So I guess no, but Matt's point is important because we're going to. Oh my God, Brittany, we have the image up of Wally. Jesus Christ, that's terrifying. You totally nailed it.
I can't even see it.
So he is not only. So not only is he an embodiment of the crisis of our time, he's a preview of the depths of our future if we don't correct course. Oh my God.
This should be a meme. I feel like IPM is gonna make this a thing.
I think they are. And I would say, by the way, if not only do I hope Wyatt doesn't get his ring back, I think that any woman who has ever subjected themselves to intercourse with him should definitely be part of a future Democratic tax plan.
Yeah, the ring was only $180,000. She should get at least $250,000 out of that.
She should get $250,000 for having dinner with him. She'd be like, I'm a dinner hooker. I'll have a drink with you for, like, yeah, they should really go down like phone conversation, 100 grand. Walking down the street, 300,000. I think dinner should just be $1 million. Okay, so the point being that because Wyatt has actually found his one use in life, which is demonstrating the complete depravity of the ultra rich and how fundamentally America is broken.
Vibrantly, I might add.
Yes, very vibrantly in pink handcuffs. We'll give him pink handcuffs. You know what? When he gets thrown in the gulag, we'll give him nice pink fluffy handcuffs so his wrists.
No,
are
you know
comfy.
what? We're gonna plaster
fuck
his.
that.
We're gonna plaster his cell with his patterns.
Hey, it's not the boardroom or the discoteca, but it's something, right, buddy?
Wait, can we talk about why he said discoteca?
Yes, go for it.
What the fuck?
Yes.
Why? There are no fucking discotecas in Palm Beach. I'm sorry. And I don't know who he's marketing those shirts to, but it's definitely not anyone living outside of fucking Palm Beach, Florida.
Well, maybe there's like a group of like the bizarre kids of the ultra wealthy who, by the way, we should find out more about who they are because apparently they're the entire purpose and beneficiaries of modern Republican policy making.
Wait, I have an update.
I think they're
wait, there's an
they're
update.
probably bred well enough to not wear shit like that, to be honest with you.
See my earlier comments on inbreeding.
Wyatt
Yes.
is Bill Koch's son, who was the one who was ostracized.
Oh, Billy and Wyatt.
Oh, so
pink-
wait, Wyatt's dad is the gay one.
Well, that's what's
Allegedly,
speculated.
that's what's speculated.
That's what's
Oh.
speculated. So maybe when his dad was being nice, it was like slightly more. So he comes from the like, I got tortured and ostracized by my homophobic dad, and my brothers took over the plastic cups and destroyed the planet and rape and pillage America business. So he's from that
Oh,
line.
well, now I feel bad for him.
I don't. He's still getting a tax cut. He's still totally useless.
And he still has way too much money.
He still has way too much money. That's why I said he should. Well, I was the one saying he should get frilly handcuffs. You guys were the ones saying nothing. See, maybe you want to revise your position now, Brittany.
No, he doesn't deserve frilly handcuffs. I'm sticking to that.
All right. Well, we are also going to stick to throwing him in the pyramid. Although we should say that Wyatt will be part of I decree it today, a furlough program, where some people who are thrown in the pyramid are brought out at times so that we can throw them in again, so that we could drag them again. And Wyatt, we hope you become a meme. Your life and sort of your work is obviously totally useless as far as you're concerned, but you're actually in a perfect lesson. And
You don't worry about anything. We'll take care of it.
dude,
all.
you just be you. We got this. So for now, and Gingers out there, we love you. I think my comrade and great friend Corey Pein is a goddamn charismatic,
We're gonna balance the
telegenic
scales.
ginger that we're going to have on in a few minutes, and I feel very good about that. But this one you're going to just need to bite a bullet on because this is some real fucking, as Brittany would say, thumb-faced ginger shit right now. Wyatt, Coke, we sentence you to the pyramid. Wyatt, oh, poor Wyatt. He didn't even get to say anything. He just looked so sweet and innocent.
He looks like a giant baby. I don't
So, dude,
look such a big baby.
Brittany, thank you for everything you do. Institute of Progressive Memetics, Britney Sneers. She's amazing. The work you guys do is awesome. Thanks a million.
Wait, follow us on Twitter
Yeah,
at IPM_tweets.
at IPM_tweets. Thank you.
No, bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody. Get to Corey in a second, but I just want to run this ad. Hold on one second. Can you guys check the door, actually? I think Adam might already be here. So we saw that we caught this ad where do we have it? Are we gonna play this thing? Hold on one second. All right, so this is an incredibly creepy, something that definitely, like, you could see Donald Trump. He could only, like, this is something from the stands. Like, this is literally like a Kazaki ad for the leader. The Fox News, of course, has a preview of it. This is a super PAC that backs Donald Trump and an ad post-tax cut bill. Check this out. It's very disturbing.
President's advisors tonight are telling me they want to try to pivot out of this victory on tax cuts to infrastructure, immigration reform, other big issues. And this pro-Trump nonprofit group, America First Policies, is now planning a $1 million TV ad blitz that will start on Christmas Day. But in fact, they're giving Fox News at night a first look. Watch.
Thank you for cutting my taxes.
Thank you for fixing our economy.
Thank you for keeping my family safe.
Thank you for putting America first.
Thank you for supporting Israel.
As veterans, thank you for reminding us to stand for our national anthem.
Thank you, President Trump.
Thank you, President Trump, for letting us say Merry Christmas again.
I didn't even catch the Jew thing before. She was like, thank you, Donald Trump.
You're all very welcome.
You're very welcome, particularly the black guy. Probably didn't cut your taxes, if we're being honest, but sure.
I'm not keeping your America first, but whatever. Thank you.
Yeah, no. Oh, everybody, watch your wallets. It's black guy in the ad room. I want to do an Obama one, like from the perspective of how Trump supporters view Obama. Get like a bunch of like, yo, thank you, President Obama, for a motherfucking knockout game. Yo, thank you for knocking down the churches, building motherfucking mosques and shit. It's like, I would like to thank President Obama for apologizing for the country, leaving the border open, helping me set up a M13 gang, and have sex with a lot of white girls. I would like to thank you, President Obama. But that would be literally the equivalent of what you just saw. See, that's the great thing about Republicanism and the right, is that their whole existence is a prolonged act of horrifying projection. Like, that's all it is.
They show you how to live freely in the most cruel and bigoted ways possible.
They ran around for 8 years talking about a centrist, intellectual professional with a pathological need to be reasonable with sociopaths, and talked about him as a extremist, and then
White tape dropping soon.
World star, baby. Fuck out of my office, white boy. They did that fantasy for 8 years, and then they elected that. They just did that. Like, actually, we will. There is actually a deranged, racist, incompetent who has multiple corrupt relationships and bizarre connections potentially overseas. Yeah, that actually does exist. Thanks, guys. They didn't even have, actually, you know, I remember the Obama sex stories weren't that he, again, there's a very credible allegations about Trump. The Obama ones weren't even assault. The Obama ones were that he was gay. I remember that in 2008. You remember that?
Vaguely.
That traveled yeah, it was like some, and it was really funny because the dude who came forward, like, I
wish he was. I wish it turned out he was.
Yeah, why not? Let's do it. Fuck it. It's like you get to watch sports with your best friend, then have sex with him. Best of all.
Watching the Bulls game.
Yeah, watch the Bulls game. A blowjob, and then check the stats without any interruptions and female nonsense. Best of all worlds. No, but he's like, I remember though, the dude who said it looked like the guy looked like such a mess, and I remember like it was so stereotypical, but I did this. Really good gay friend of mine in college. We happened to be looking at this guy's picture together who accused Obama of like, President Obama, Senator Obama smoked PCP with me and blew me in a limo. And I remember this guy, was just a friend of mine, he's like, yeah, if Obama was gay, not you. right, everybody. We are going to take a brief break. We'll be right back with the great Corey Pein. Become a patron, and then you get the post game with Dead Pundit Society. Adam Proctor in studio. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Michael Brooks Show. I'm Michael Brooks. Joining us now is Corey Pein. He's a journalist. He's crew. He's author of Live, Work, 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 Die, which is coming out soon. Pre-order it. Corey.
Yeah, pre-order the book. I mean, I think it's good for my publisher to see that that's happening because it looks good, like on the pre-bestseller list or something. This is the kind of stuff I have to start thinking about, which is good.
Yeah. I've always heard. Sorry to butt in, but I've always heard that the pre-ordering stuff is very important. I see like authors that actually care about really like they learn about that when they have a book coming out. So you're discovering that as well.
I'm discovering a lot of things about the publishing world. But that's
what else are you discovering about the publishing world, buddy?
Save it for the tell-all, man.
Did you have to blow Obama?
Hey,
if you want to do well on nonfiction general sales, you got to blow me.
What was the music before? I thought it was Meow the Jewels, but I'm like, that's not Meow the Jewels. But it sounded like the guy was meowing.
Which one? Which one? The one before you came
music.
On? The Diplomat? Before the Pyramid.
Yeah.
I don't remember. What was that, Matt? I don't remember. You mean like the actual Egyptian music that we play before we lock those motherfuckers up? Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, buddy. We'll figure it out, boss.
Yeah, so it's good.
No, I mean, I'm really, really excited about this book, man. I can't be more.
Well, I just got the second pass proofs, which is like basically my last chance to fix typos. So those will be done by the new year, and then the book's out in April, and I will be visiting several cities, including New York. So if you don't make it out to Portland for a visit before then,
it's on. Yeah, can't wait. We'll have you in studio, and we'll party. We'll take care of business. So
cool.
Give everybody a little refresher on the book. It's getting closer. I mean, we'll dive into it, on both shows, but give everybody a little refresher on it. And the Peter Thiel thing. I always like the Peter Thiel thing.
Well, look, let me just quote the jacket copy. It's a scathing, sardonic exploration of tech culture, laying bare the greed, hubris, and retrograde politics of an industry that aspires to radically transform society for its own benefit. That being the tech industry. So I went to Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and tried to live the life of a startup entrepreneur, pitching various ideas, which all had one thing in common, which is the one thing I identified that all successful startups have in common, which is that they were blatantly illegal.
Yes.
And I don't want to say a whole lot more than that because I do want people to read the book. But
no, they will.
It's a narrative book. It's different. It's not I didn't want to write an academic book about why the tech industry was bad. I wanted to write a book that was like the books that made me want to be a writer. So,
what were some
as
of
my
those
editor
books?
put it, what's that?
What were some of those books?
Oh, that's interesting. I have to say, like, I've always been a reader, but probably in middle school, high school, I really got into, all kind of cliched 60s, 70s stuff, like Kurt Vonnegut and Hunter Thompson, that sort of generation of, pulp writers, really.
Right.
And new journalism, which, reading some of that stuff, I realized you could actually tell the truth for a living, which is what I've always tried to do with my career, which is not the path to fame and fortune and Twitter celebrity. I would tell you that.
Well, maybe we can make it that way now. That's part of the fight that we're waging, I think. And I do think we're somewhat like, it's like, look at BuzzFeed, right? BuzzFeed's an interesting place to kind of run this model because at this point, they actually have some people doing good, legit journalism there. And there's very few places, where you can do that. So like the guy who did the Milo Breitbart story is an example. That's a great piece of investigative journalism that was important for us to know. And I think that BuzzFeed has a bit of credibility on that angle. But I think that like the vibe around BuzzFeed, like in 2014, 2015, amongst a certain set was, I got to figure out my BuzzFeed angle. And now I think there is much more broadly like, fuck that. Why I don't want a BuzzFeed angle. Like,
well, but I agree. I think that people are wanting more meat on their journalism. Right. But here's the best thing about BuzzFeed, in my opinion: the staff is unionizing. I mean, This is something that in the 15 years I've worked as a journalist since like college, grad school, whatever. Like that is something I didn't think was possible. But there's a new generation that's filling up the staff jobs, and even if many of them are sort of upper middle class, Ivy League, hairspray
nerds,
sort of nerds, like they are in a position where like forming a union against the will of management is something that is not only appealing to them, but they're risking their livelihoods on.
Well, that's
really great to see.
And everybody does that.
Possible.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, and I think that's important for people. Like I love every time Waz and I have had this conversation a couple of times, about how like even in sports, like even in NBA, because work describes a social relationship and class is fundamentally an actual like productive relationship. It's not just these like brand signifiers that people obsess with here. So like, even if it's a privileged worker, but if you're pocketing like LeBron, Curry, these are still workers. There's still people whose labor is getting exploited by people sitting back, profiting off of the excess. And yes, in fact, they are unionized, but like, even the most privileged among us take an enormous risk to organize.
Well, yeah, this is a point I actually make in the book about tech workers in the Bay Area. It's really, and I do spend a lot of time sort of making fun at the at the kids straight out of Stanford who are making like $120,000 a year, like more than I've, more than I've ever seen in a year,
like in a month
as a writer. Right.
Yeah, because you're fucking. I mean, dude, you can't lie to my audience. I know the kind of cheddar you have.
So I do poke a bit of fun at them, but here's the thing. I mean, for the value that they bring to these multi-billion-dollar, there's probably going to be $1 trillion tech company in our lifetime in the not too distant future, and the value that these coders bring is multiples of what they're overpaid currently. So, from a market point of view.
Right.
So it's similar to that discussion about athletes.
And just,
like,
I think, just delinking. Well, I just also think it's like delinking, like, because unions and organizing have been so demonized and in the public mind, and people are so uneducated. And by the way, and particularly middle and upper class people, because they don't have any kind of visceral experience of this stuff. I think if you grow up in a certain way where you've dealt with a certain kind of like basic abuse because of your standing, right? You have some sense of needing to respond to that. But that being said, there's still like, I've noticed conversations that are even like, especially like with liberals, and they're considered relatively more enlightened. And it's like, okay, well, I understand that if you're a maid or you're a fireman, like if you have a real blue collar job, or if you have a job that everybody understands is probably going to be undercompensated, where you can be really easily abused, all right, those people need to organize. I get that. But like, oh, you work in Silicon Valley, like you have a sous chef at your place. You don't need that, because they don't understand the same productive relationship that happens regardless of whether something is nice or not. Like they don't have any contextual understanding because they're fucking morons. But that's what we always say. So
we were going to
core brand proposition of the show.
We were going to talk about reasons for optimism, and I think that's like exactly it. Is that the backlash is real,
right?
And the right is digging its own grave right now. They're overplaying their hand. They're overreaching. And it's going to bite him in a huge way.
I mean, I think that that's like something that we're just going to have to choose to believe. This is where I'm like totally like, I'm like Heidegger or Deepak Chopra or something. Like we need to enact the reality we want.
We need to manifest it.
Yeah, we need to. I mean, it's a possibility. Well, there is a backlash, so we need to choose. There's several possible manifestations here. One is like Elysium. Okay, we're pretty close. There's another that somehow there's some type of like, they kind of get it together, and Christian Gillibrand beats Donald Trump, and whatever, and they sort of band-aid it. And I'm not an idiot. That's preferable to where we're at now, but it just recreates and delays and puts it off, and we have another like, oh, you're out of the hospital, that's great, but you still can't walk and you still have bandages all over your body and we're still not dealing with anything. That's a possibility. And then another possibility is there is backlash. There is a reason. Like, I know this sounds trivial to people who are kind of in it, but this is the first modern tax cut that I've looked at that has like net disapproval. Now we can go on the merits and say, like, of course, like the Bush tax cuts were terrible, and they were, but this is the first time in modern American politics where somebody has come out and used that like fairy dust word, and most people have been like, nah, that is a significant pivot.
I'm gonna get back to that theme, but you left out one sort of cinematic possibility for what might happen.
Oh, please give me as many. You're a writer, man. Go for it.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I mean, you have seen the New York Times.
Oh, right. But dude, we all know that that's just like the CIA propagandizing us. Come on, man.
I tuned into Coast to Coast AM the other day.
You listen to Coast to Coast, dude? I haven't listened to that show in years.
I wanted to see what they had to say about the New York
Times. That's awesome. What did they say? No, I used to listen to that show all the time.
They think that it's bullshit. They think that it's obviously was a drone, and it's covering up. But
wait, I'm sorry, Corey. Are you saying that our culture has gotten so poisoned by Slate that even Coast to Coast is like, well, you expect us to say this, but no.
The way I see it is that I don't think it's contrarianism. I think it's what happens when the New York Times comes and Bigfoot's your beat, which is something I'm very familiar with as an alt-weekly reporter.
Right.
It's like, no, this is our story. So, I don't know. I mean, I was hoping that the solstice would open up some energies and that the aliens would reveal themselves to us yesterday. But
you and me both, buddy.
It didn't happen, at least not in my timeline. Maybe we can check in, next time CERN cranks up the particle accelerator. But it didn't happen where I'm at. I'm not sure about your end of the Skype.
I did meet Deepak Chopra yesterday.
For real?
For real. I
Where?
was at his spot in Manhattan. I was on the list, dude.
Did you have a lunch party or something?
No, he was. It was a new group I'm a part of. It's called the Russell Simmons Civil Defense Fund, and we were doing an energy raising for it. I'm joking. I don't like how people in my own studio are giving me like, "Are you serious? Russell Simmons is horrible." Yeah, it was a joke. No, I was there, but it was not on behalf of Russell Simmons. Russell Simmons.
It was very deadpan.
Well, Russell. It was very no. What it was a good friend of mine actually has reps a really good vodka company, and they did the drinks for this event. So I was on the list, and it was actually really nice. It was a nice meditation thing, whatever, and the drinks were good. And I met Deepak, and when I met Deepak, this is not deadpan. It did take a lot of self-control to not ask him about Russell Simmons because I thought it would be funny.
Well, my Bitcoin holdings are doing fantastic.
I can't believe you own Bitcoin. I somehow feel like betrayed.
Dude, I'm fucking joking.
I thought you did. You did. Oh, he doubled up.
Yeah,
you know how dumb like Twitter and the internet is. The big conclusions of this episode are going to be like, Michael Brooks spreads rumors that Obama smokes PCP and blows guys in limos. Corey Pein owns Bitcoin, and Michael's a Russell Simmons freedom advocate. Hashtag not woke. Hashtag brocialist. Hashtag call out.
You're probably not far from the truth.
Well, I know.
But, I don't care. I mean, I've got my own modest following, and they listen to things in context, and they know what I'm talking about. And, I don't care really if that happens.
It's a rare commodity. So you see hope in the backlash. And then when you think about this and you see like younger, like people in their 20s coming along, kind of like, do you feel like, because I felt like, I think you and I come from kind of similar, in some ways very different, but in some ways very similar backgrounds, in that like we were both, essentially we were like, poor, right? And then we somehow, we got into college and we kind of figured it out, and we got on a professional trajectory. But you're in these situations, and it's, like whatever. It's not that hard to translate in some ways. There's, certainly, at least for me, like in New England, there's a certain kind of shared culture. But on the other hand, like, people are talking about their vacations. You go to your friends' houses, and you're like, oh, the fucking car is worth more than my parents are putting together in a year.
Yeah.
And
totally.
then say these kind of conversations come up, like say the conversation shifts from, Obama's super groovy and, gay people should be treated well, which like are, yes, right. And then all of a sudden it becomes like whatever that equivalent was of, well, why aren't the cafeteria workers at this, endowed college, like why not, instead of another like student protest about, either bullshit or frankly something that we should be protesting, but we're not going to register on at all, like, that we're right about, but we're not going to pivot policy in Gaza. What are we going to do about that? And it's like, I don't know. I read Judith Butler. I think like putting on eyeliner is just as important as organizing the janitors. And you start to realize like, wow, this is just and you start to, at least in my case, I felt like I didn't compromise what I thought fundamentally, and I advocated for what I believed. But I would bite my tongue, and I just had a very impoverished sense. Like I thought, okay, maybe I can get out of this, and I can do better, and then I can sort of like try to not completely let us drop into social Darwinism, and that seems to be about it in the Blair, Clinton, Obama world. And now it does seem like part of this backlash is that people are definitely, maybe some of those tongues are less held now, in general.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely feel that, certainly, I mean, when I started out, it was like early Bush years, and like that was, the self-censorship then was really intense, and I felt like I defied it in some ways, but when I look back on some of my output at that time, being a full-time staff writer most of that time at various publications, I realized how much I did hold back. I certainly didn't expect that in 2017 that it would be possible to be like not just a self-avowed socialist, but that would be something that was like popular.
Right.
Mention the backlash being a source of optimism. I mean, it's only beginning. I don't remember if we talked about this on the illicit history that we're doing, but the polls, there was a recent poll, Harvard poll, so serious poll, because it's from the expensive. It's from the expensive school,
right?
But it found that 19% of Americans age 18 to 29 support capitalism. In other words, less than 1 in 5.
Wow, that's a real that is a radical drop. I've seen like the ones in the 40s. That's really interesting.
And that's in a couple of years, you know.
Right.
And the saying used to be, what changes young radicals into old conservatives? It's when they buy a house or whatever. I mean, nobody in that age group expects to buy a house.
Yeah, right. No need to worry about that. Yeah.
So,
exactly.
like the circumstances that made, this flowering of left ideals possible are not good. They're not comfortable for people. Like, people are dying, from lack of health care and opportunity and things like that. But that is sadly, given the circumstances that we were in, suffering that was probably necessary in order to force that change. And it sucks to think about it that way, but just looking for silver linings in this situation.
Yeah. No, you have to. I could be projecting on you. I don't know if you share my same experience, but like, I think part of it's obviously just, kind of like maturing and sort of dealing with yourself as a person. But I think like in the last, I mentioned earlier, this is whatever we can criticize Occupy, blah, blah, blah. I have a million conversations about it. But the thing, I think when Occupy happened and I had some success before college and then I graduated in that horrible job market and I was, sort of putting it together, but it was terrible like it was for so many other people. And I had it definitely not as good as some and much better than a lot. And it was awful. And there was so much shame. Like on top of it was like, I'm not doing this right, even though all evidence outside would suggest this is not personal. Like literally like capitalism was just coming to all young people at that time being like, kid, it's not personal, it's business. Right. and then combined with like my own sort of like embarrassment about having like grown up poor and not going to the right places and stuff. And it does seem like I don't want to kind of equate my own just sort of like, becoming an adult and you get more comfortable in your own skin and blah, blah, blah. But I do think that there's a kind of broader shift there too, where it's like, hey, if you're like a poor American, you shouldn't sort of like hide that off in shame because and we associate it with all these, it's like poor. There's the racist explanations of poverty. There's the genetics, for God's sakes. There's the fucking, there's the class stories when Charles Murray had to pivot. He used to say, oh, well, black and Hispanic people are poor because of their genetics. And he still says that. But now he needed to say, well, poor white people are poor because, their culture's so bad, right? Because they constantly need to shame and terrorize people out of them having a confidence and an awakening to explain their material conditions. And I just feel like it seems like there's a little bit of a cultural shift there too, of people kind of being like, wait a second, that's, first of all, it's wrong substantively, and secondly, like, no, fuck you.
I'm not sure if it's a shift or a correction. I mean, the
alt-right
especially talking about, Western civilization and the racist ways that they deploy that term, but it's also like just completely myopic view of what constitutes, Western history. I mean, just look at the mythology of not like the Christian world, right? Like there are no good rich guys, right? Jesus, Robin Hood, how many
Hell yeah.
fucking
that was my James, dude. Robin Hood politicized me, man. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And fucking Star Wars. I mean, like in every scenario of this manifestation of this tradition, they claim to love and cherish and believe to be predominant. Like the ideology that they represent is always the villain.
Right. Right.
So I'm not sure if it's a shift or a correction. I mean, we've the United States over the last 70, 80 years has been in a really exceptional position historically, and we had some like deranged people running the show. So, I think younger people, that overwhelming anti-capitalist majority is going to be restoring some sanity.
Matt, will you do me a favor? Because we're going to go in a minute, but I want to leave on a funny note with Corey. Do you remember that sassy Trump clip where he talks about the Bibles that he reads?
No, I've seen a few. But,
dude, you haven't been watching sassy Trump? What's the matter with you?
I only watch it when it gets picked up on Majority Report.
Well,
like go out. I'm not subscribing to Sassy Trump's channel.
No. I think what is it, Peter Fenowitz?
I guess I should. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be snobby.
No. It's fine. No, I'm totally kidding. So this was, it cracked me up because you mentioned this Christian thing. And this is Sassy Trump, which is Peter Fenowitz's,
Sarah Fenowitz.
Sarah Fenowitz. I feel like talking like Mike Cernovich when I hear that name. This is his rendition of Donald Trump talking about his Christianity. And remember, as in all of these sassy Trump clips, this is all Trump's real words, just dubbed over in a sassy way.
Right. Well, I believe in God. I am Christian. I believe very strongly in God. I think that the Bible certainly is one of, is the book. It is the thing. And I was raised, and I gave you a picture just now, and perhaps you'll use that picture. I found it from a long time ago. First Presbyterian Church of Jamaica, Queens. That's where I went to church. I'm a Protestant. I'm a Presbyterian. And, I've had a good relationship with the church over the years. I think religion is a wonderful thing. I think my religion is a wonderful religion.
The Bibles. I understand a lot of people send you Bibles. Is that true?
Well, I get sent Bibles by a lot of people. You have a lot? Well, actually, we keep them in a certain place, a very, very nice place. But people send me Bibles, and it's very interesting. I get so much mail, and because I'm in this incredible location in Manhattan, you can't keep most of the mail you get. There's no way I would ever do anything to do negative to a Bible. So what we do is we keep all of the Bibles. I would have a fear of doing something other than very positive. So actually I store them and keep them and sometimes give them away to other people. But I do get sent a lot of Bibles. And I like that. I think that's great.
Corey, can we beat that guy and everything he represents?
That was a deep, deep affirmation of faith. I don't know where you're coming from.
That's the thing I love about Trump sometimes is like the dude, I'm like, well, fuck, I'm respectful of Christianity compared to that. I'm like, wow.
That was so awesome. And, back to the theme of awesome, it's going to be even more entertaining is watching him and his children like rush to eat each other.
Yes, when they're like locked in a gulag.
I was even thinking before that, up to the point where he fires Mueller, they're going to be pitted against each other. And even if he does, like the information's going to come out that is going to force them to be all at odds, and it's going to be amazing.
Oh, it's when Ivanka texts Jared Kushner, "You, me, frowny face," to break up with him.
Ivanka does her Me Too post with receipts. I mean, I think that's
about her own dad. God damn.
Dude, fire. You said it. I didn't say it.
I always say it. I am so committed to those jokes. I remember Bill Maher got in trouble for making a joke about Ivanka giving him a hand job, and I was like, look, I have problems with Bill Maher. I think he's really lost his step anyways, but like, yo, I only have like Henry Kissinger said, I don't have permanent friends or permanent enemies, only permanent interests. And Bill Maher and I are comrades. That was a great Ivanka hand job joke. Corey Pein, my friend, my comrade, Michael Brooks Show crew. When exactly is the book coming out again? What's the release
April
date?
24th, 2018. You can pre-order Amazon, Powell's, local
Say the name again.
Store with
Say the name.
Powell's.com. Oh, the book.
The book.
Live, Work, Die. A Journey into the Savage Heart of Silicon Valley by Corey Pein.
Corey, thanks so much, my man.
Thanks, Michael. See you.
All right, brother. Thank you. Okay, everybody. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to say goodbye to all the non-patrons because, well, frankly, I get a lot of gifts from patrons.
We've given you enough.
We've given you enough. I get a lot of gifts from patrons. And I keep them in a nice place.
I wouldn't want to do anything but positive with the attention we get from non-patrons.
Thank you so much to all the new patrons. We were at almost 9:30 when we started today. We're moving. We're deeply committed to this project, and that's why we do it. You allow this to happen. We're building out this agenda. We're focused on having this win. We're really focused on sort of whatever role we can play to fix the problems we have and create the world we want. That's why we do this, and hopefully it's also fun for you as well. I appreciate each and every one of you so much. We launched only in August. This has been an amazing couple of months, and I hope it's been a bright spot for you in 2017. I appreciate everybody who's joined. Please continue to do so at patreon.com/TMBS. And also for all of you who are spreading the word, it means a tremendous amount. As I say, we're moving. And for those of you who are going to continue with us, and I want to thank, of course, super producer Matt Leck, super producer David Slavic, head theoretician David Grisham, and all Majority Report. That's the second time. I'm exhausted. All Michael Brooks Show crew. You can find, we're doing a new Facebook page series on crew, like Corey Pein and Gene Bajlan and all these other amazing people that are regulars. Also on Twitter. This Sunday's Illicit History, who's really in charge and who are the quote-unquote adults in the room. Corey Pein and I are tackling the media narrative, the media of the military-industrial complex saving us from Trump. And next Sunday on vacation, the Shower Posse, the full history of Jamaica's Shower Posse and what it teaches us about the CIA, IMF, and the World Bank and dancehall. So all that's coming. But first, if you're a patron, Dead Pundit Society. Adam Proctor, he's coming out from behind the shadows. He's actually here with me. I gave him the wrong address just to get him in an angry. So he's ready. We're going to be on the post game causing a lot of trouble. 646-257-3920. Hopefully the phones will work. If not, I'll get to your IMs. Matt's going to go on the Discord. We'll get your questions. And Adam and I are going to make it all happen. We will be back in about 5 minutes. Thank all of you so much.